Well, welcome. This is the National Automobile Museum's podcast studio, and this is the Inside Story. And I'm your host, the Bronc. What we talk about here is more than just antique automobiles. We talk about different events, different activities, not only for you, but for your family, your friends, your relatives, and even senior citizens and little toddlers. I'm happy to announce today that we have two great guests. One is more entertaining than the other, and you can see it just by looking at their faces. All right, so we have some fun here. I got them laughing already. All right, first I'll introduce Marcel. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And Marcel is the museum's events concierge, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And you've been here 3 years already.
Almost 3 years, yep.
Wow. What made you decide to come here before we get started with our topic?
Well, I have worked kind of in the entertainment industry for a while. I worked for Live Nation for several years. And when I moved up here to Reno, I worked for a museum nearby, the Wilbur D. May Museum. I worked there basically as a tour guide, for years. And then I just, wanted to see what was out there. I tried a couple of different museums to see. I wanted to get more steady full-time work, and I was lucky enough to get hired here. And so 3 years now, almost 3 years, and I'm still around.
And we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted you on the show today, because what we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to introduce my next very, very beautiful, gorgeous guest, Jada. Right? You look at that happy face. She's always smiling. It just brings joy to your life. And that's what makes it interesting, is that when people come to the museum, they see you, and they just have a feeling of, wow, it feels like I'm family. I'm just here, and that's what the event. And Jada is our educational and events manager, and I believe you've been here almost 2 years now, correct?
Yep, 2 years in August.
Right? And what made you decide to come to the museum as a manager?
I was ready to get out of my last job, but also I'd been doing events all throughout college, and I wanted to continue doing that. And there was an opportunity here at the museum. And I also kind of always had like a long-term goal of eventually working for a nonprofit, so that we are. So it worked out. And then stepping into working here after a couple months, I loved what we were doing with our education, and so we ended up tacking that on. So I started with events, but then kind of evolved into doing both events and education here.
And that's what I want to bring up, is why we're here today, is that more than just antiquated cars and antique automobiles, we have an educational event center. It's the Wine Guard. Did I get that correct? Activity Center?
Yes, activity center.
It's the Activity Center. Now tell us something about it, either Morris or Jade, whoever wants to interact with this. What is the Activity Center, and why is it here in a museum that has cars in it?
Yeah, so the Children's Activity Center is a state-of-the-art part of the museum. It opened in 2024, so right before I got here. We've spent over $4 million investing in the museum, making it something that people want to continue coming to, not just once in third grade or once for their high school prom. We wanted to make it something that they want to keep coming back to. And, so many museums nowadays, you go there, and ours is one of them. Like, you can't touch the cars because you don't want the oils to mess with the paint or anything like that. But we wanted to give kids and children a chance to go into the museum, look at all the cars, and then get to go somewhere they can touch. Not just constantly like, no, don't touch anything, because kids nowadays, you got to be a little more interactive.
Well, that's it. People think that, especially Morris, is that people come in and we just cater to an older male population, right? And
Yes.
that's the idea: museum, artifacts, maybe some spider webs in a corner because they've been sitting there for 100 years or something. But now with the new technology and the difference that people are more interactive, why should a daddy or a grandpa bring his grandchildren, bring his wife, or teenagers, like you mentioned, proms that we have here? We have education field trips that we have here. Why should we bring those people in, and why do we cater our needs at the museum to the younger crowd? Why do we want to do that, especially considering we the activity center, and how does that evolve to bring people into it, to give them interest and education and new memories? The whole thing is relive old memories, and now we have new memories.
I think it's a lot of fun, honestly. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, there's educational, but also a lot of fun. I'm seeing, mothers bringing their small kids in every week, the same kids, the same mothers, dads as well. I'm very active in my kids' life. You know what I mean? I have twin girls that just turned 9, and we go out and do stuff, all the time. And I want them to have all kinds of experiences. And they love coming here. they love going into the, activity center there. And I just think it gives a lot of opportunity for, kids to play and, just be themselves. But also there's some principles of engineering and, STEM and a lot of things like that in there as well for them.
Okay, Jada,
think-
let me ask you this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think getting them, the Children's Activity Center is a great chance to get them in the doors, but then we might be developing a new future car lover. If we only cater to like older folks, like some people think, because, maybe they had cars or had a connection to the cars we have here, then we're going to lose a piece of the history. So I think it's really important to get the kids in here at an activity they might love, but then they're going to still like remember the cars we have. They'll be like educated, learning about them, because cars have since evolved. Like what I drive versus what we have in this museum are very different. So this is a chance for them to see like, this is where we've started to this is where we are at now.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. Is that something when people go to museums, they relive old memories, especially older individuals like myself. But now, by bringing children in, not only the dad or the mom or the grandpa, whoever's bringing the children in, is going to tell them stories. Well, back in 1950, we had this car, and then they show you the chrome and the dashboard, and they're relating to the children. Now the children are experiencing getting new memories that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. Tell us about the activity center. What are the activities in the center itself, and how is it interrelated with parents? How could the parents help with the kids, or, as you see a lot, at a playground, the mommy sits there, the daddy on the cell phone, they're going think, and the kid's running rampant like a little hellhound, right?
Yeah, there's currently we have four different zones, but 5 different activities in there, and there's still a bigger space that I know we plan to still develop more in the future. But we have this like red car that it's meant more for the littles, but
Would you explain what the red car
yeah,
is?
you
please?
can change the tires. You can mess with like wires and connect it, pretend to give it gas. You can like beep the horn, so people love doing
well,
that.
that I'm going to get you with. We did the activity center when we had the free day, and we had the little kids. It must have been about 50, 75 kids. I mean, they were having a ball. The parents were interacting, but the horn was standing beep, beep, beep.
It never
4 hours,
stops,
beep,
yep.
beep,
Yeah.
beep.
Yep.
You're going to pay for that one.
Well, they love it because it's interactive. It gives them, like I said, like it's something that they can touch and change around. And then we also have digital forms where you can stand in front of this. It looks like a garage, but when you put your feet on the footprints, it raises up. You're pretending to clean a car, a dirty car. You kind of move around, which gets their wiggles out, gets the excitement out. Then for any kid who's super creative and wants to design things, we have an art spot where you get to pick a sedan, a truck, pick the different colors, stickers, and then you kind of get to display it. So it helps taps into maybe the kids who aren't so like history focused, but like art. And then we also have our junior engineering workshop, which allows kids to kind of just start from scratch, come up with different things. That's a great zone for like if parents want to give them a problem to solve or to think about like why does a catapult, like what's a lever. There's all the explanations and the science on the walls too. We do it in one of our field trips where we kind of encourage them to make something or design something and add to it, and that's a great place to do that. Then we also have a Lego zone, which there's not much explanation needed. That's the one zone that, this might be our children's activity center, but we find grown-ups back there all the time playing with the Legos.
I find the daddies and the
Yeah.
children, whether
Yeah.
male, female,
Marcel, when you can't
racing
find
each
them.
other. Marcel's over there. Now, with the Legos, I just want to bring it up. It's a racetrack.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, like, people think Legos building buildings and they have the little car model, a base car model
Yeah.
that you have on
You
it.
design
and
your
then
car.
they design and
Yeah.
they build with all these like 10 billion pieces of
Yeah,
Legos.
yeah.
Yes.
And they put them on a racetrack.
Yep.
And at the end of the racetrack, there's a screen to say who wins. And you
Exactly.
can see when the little son or the little daughter beats the daddy or the mom.
Yeah.
They jump up and the look on their face, right? The anxiety that they get out of it and the joy of accomplishment,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
self-fulfillment.
Yeah.
And they keep going back more and more.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you about the engineering center. Well, I just want to bring up more what it is. Now, I related to when I was growing up, we had what is known as erector sets. Where
Right.
you had metal pieces that in a box, and you'd build whatever creativity, whatever comes to your mind that you could imagine. Explain
Hey,
what
I
it
got
is.
lots of cuts on those erector sets back
Yeah.
in the day. I know what you're talking about.
Right, especially on your tongue.
But the engineering workshop, it's really cool because it's fascinating to see the way the kids are problem solving. And, you know, some kids are more artsy based, like myself, and then there's other people that are very logical based. And so, you know, you see what people are building there, you know, some of these kids, and it's pretty fast. I've gone back there sometimes and seen kids that have built like a catapult, you know.
Right, I've
Scooter,
seen-
like a working scooter
Yeah.
with like a place for them to sit. I still don't understand how they did it, but they did.
Yeah.
And then I'd see the parents are involved.
Yeah.
Where they actually get them off their cell phones. And I've seen mommies, I've seen the
Yeah.
grandmas sitting there on
Yeah,
the
it's pretty
floor.
cool.
And we're talking about women that maybe in their 70s, if not more, late 60s. And the parts are giant wood pieces. Let me
Yeah.
try to elaborate. And you start with a basic cart, like a box with wheels on it. Then they have these big plastic nuts and bolts that the kids can manipulate with their hands. And they have all these different gears and boards and different angles and different shapes and sizes that they can formulate. So the creativity is what's amazing that these kids don't have anymore. Because you see, the majority of this generation, from my point of view, being an ex-school teacher, seeing this new breed of kids, is that everything is with their thumbs, right? And everything is just visual. This is, now they're exploring. They're getting the cognitive abilities that are building up. And they come out like, I did this, and you hear them talking. And you see the smile from grin to grin. And the parents now are interacting with the children. So more about the activity center is that one, and I want you to talk about, is the race game. Because have more fun, and I'll tell you a funny story about that. Go ahead.
The last one.
The race game with the body motion.
Yeah, so you, once again, we have footprints, you stand on them, and then it kind of starts, and it uses motion sensors to use your body to then pretend you are the race car driving around the streets of Reno, which I think is a nice little personal touch that we didn't just pick any like famous racetrack in the world. Like we made the streets of Reno a racetrack. You pass some big monuments like the Reno Arch that's right outside ours, but that's another great one. You'll see the kids and the parents racing each other, and you know, it's all just about how fast you can move. And so sometimes the kids beat the parents.
And what it is, it's a giant screen. Let's say about 2 feet off the floor. I guess about 6 feet high, would you guess?
Yeah.
That big. So it's interactive. So it's a full view. It's not just a little handheld computer. So they're standing in front of it. And by moving their body. Now, when I work with the kids in the center, there's one little boy that stands out. And this was done on one of the field trips. His best time was 46 seconds. So what I do is I torture the parents with the little kids. Can you beat an 8-year-old who did 46 seconds around the track? And they just coax him a little bit. I had one gentleman, when we had the free day, he was there with his son, and he must have been there 20 minutes, if not longer. All right, best time I got was 47 seconds. He was complaining, I'm coming back. I'm going to beat that child's record, right? And his son was going, well, I beat you, Daddy, so how are you going to beat him? It was so
It's pretty
cute.
cool. It reminds me of like the old Wii from Nintendo, where it's very body, you know, active. So it's pretty cool.
Well, you're Nintendo. I was Pong.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was an
exactly.
adult when Pong
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
Right, so I find, but I do find that it's interesting, the creativity aspect is what you mentioned before, design your own vehicle. Now, would you be more, elaborate more on what it actually is and what they could see and how they interact with one another? Because there's two games side by side. Would you explain a little bit about that?
Well, the two games are the same, so like they can do it at the same time, and sometimes it's fun to see people doing it at the same time because when they send the final results to the big screen for people, like the rest of the groups to see, you'll see just how differently people think and what people think are cool. But it structures out like first you pick the base of your car, so you have a truck, a sports car, or a sedan, and then you get to pick the different types of wheels you want, whether or not you want like white wheels, monster
walls.
truck ones, sports ones. There's like 4 different options, and then you get to pick the colors, and they have the basic like rainbow colors. I think there's even a multicolor and a camo, and then you can add extra things. So if you want hydraulics, I think is one of the
Right,
options,
where
and
Spoilers,
Suspension.
and
fenders.
stickers and fenders, and then finally. There might be one more thing that I'm forgetting, but then afterwards you say finish design and it sends it onto a screen way ahead of you that the rest of the group can see. But I like watching them do it, and it shows too, like cars are supposed to be different. Like even though we all have very similar cars, like you can customize them in the real world, but I mean cars and automobiles originally started, every person had a different one for a long time.
Creativity, personalized, and that's what
Exactly.
you're talking about. these kids have the opportunity to come up with their, quote, dream car,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
When I was a kid, I wanted a black car with flames, like a big black truck with flames.
Isn't
that's-
that,
oh, yeah,
isn't that what you
can do
drive
it.
now?
Yeah, yep. If you see one.
Well,
But-
I had a friend of mine that was a snail, and he always wanted the best car in the world. So he had a red car built with big S's all over it. And he said, why? He said, because when I drove, I want people to say, look at that S car go.
Oh gosh.
That's an old French
That's an
joke.
old
My
one,
dad
right?
used to say that.
Right? But it's the same thing because kids remember this. Now, on a bunch of the field trips, I have some fun with them. I have whether the chaperones or the teachers, and we have a contest. Who could build a car? And they judge it just like a regular car show. So the two kids, two children, male, female, whatever it is, they'll build it up, and then the two chaperones or teachers say, okay, this one wins. So now the next child would come up and try to beat that. And then they get so involved with it. I'm going to beat Mary. I'm going to beat John. My car's prettier. I got to, all right? And just to watch the interaction, because now not only are they interacting with games, right, but they're interacting with each other. And that's the biggest key I find with the activity centers, that children do not do this. You could see them in restaurants and playgrounds. They're very isolated. They're very introverted at that point. But when you're in an activity center, they're making new friends, all right? Their cognitive abilities are expanding. Their creativity is expanding. And I think just for that reason, it pays to bring your children here for that.
Absolutely.
Now, we have other events coming up for children that besides the activity center, what else will children and ladies, women, older people would enjoy besides looking at antique cars?
I think any of our events, there's potential for like children to enjoy or to do a date night out for parents or honestly anyone. We try really hard to make most of our events family friendly. Occasionally we'll have one or two 21 and over, but for the most part, we do some annual free days. We do a summer concert series, which even though a lot of the artists we pick are tribute bands from a couple decades ago, it's a great opportunity to expose younger people to that music or just to, have fun and listen to live music. There's no harm in that. We also have like drive-in coming up, which that in itself, drive-ins are not what they used to be.
This is an actual drive-in movie
This
theater.
is an actual drive-in
Right.
movie
The
theater.
greatest musical ever, Grease.
Yeah.
Grease, right.
And we're trying to give them not only like the experience at a drive-in, but kind of experience Grease in a way, like listening to the types of music from there, the dressing up, a car show. We're trying to do like one big event. Those are the things that we have on the books now. But I mean, throughout the year, we try to do things around holidays. We do things around Halloween,
When you
around
say
Christmas.
holidays, right, bring up that we did in the past. If we're going to do it this year, Halloween, what's involved with the children, Christmas, what's involved, why parents should bring their kids to these events. And not just, okay, Christmas, there's a Christmas tree, and there's a car with some jingle bells around it. But why should they bring the children to these events?
Well, we try really hard to make sure like our events are safe. Outside events, you never know. But also, Reno weather is very unpredictable.
Good
so
point.
a lot of events can be outside here, or they want to be, and it's either too cold or we get rained on. So I'd say a lot of our events, with them being inside. But if you've walked around this museum, it has an outside feel. You walk in during Christmas time, and it feels like you're walking a main street. And
It's gorgeous,
yeah.
honestly. Christmas time is gorgeous here. Halloween, the way we have it decorated, we do. We take pride in what we do to set everything up and make it look, like the holidays. We want it to look nice.
Well,
Marcel's
Halloween,
our interior
there's
designer.
different games that the kids could play, and they get candy for winning. It's all free candy, by the way, right? Different stations. They have face painting, correct, for the children. They have balloon makers. A little girl comes with balloons. We have Christmas, Santa Claus, where you could come
Oh,
in
yeah.
and have the children take pictures
Gotta
with
have
Santa
Santa
Claus.
here.
And this is all included in the museum. So, as you said before, it's more than just antique cars. It's a family event center. It's a holiday to bring the family together to go out and enjoy.
Yeah, and if you do, that's why we always recommend getting a family membership at these events, because members get
what
in.
is a family membership?
Family memberships are a year. It's valid for 1 year. You get 2 adults in, and they each get a card. So if it's mom and dad, it could be mom and grandma, whoever is with the kids the most. And then it gets 3 kids in under 17, I believe, also as well. They don't get their own cards, but they get in as well. And then anyone else after that is 50% off. So, if mom and grandma want to be the 2 primary card holders, but hey, dad and grandpa want to come every once in a while, they get in 50% off of our normal admissions. And that includes, so with that too, you get discounts to different events we host, as well as when we do Easter, Christmas, Halloween, you automatically get in for free, even if we're not doing a free day, because, it's included with member admissions. We also do movie nights for some of them. So we have a great theater here. So we've tried to do different movies based off of like different cars we have, because some kiddos don't realize the significance of certain cars. They don't realize that, they were a part of a movie. So we like to show them so they get it.
Well, you just brought up the idea of cars, right? Now, I was impressed. I'm not a movie, kind of kiddie movie thing, but why did you mention cars? And you could talk about the new display.
That's her favorite movie. Right
favorite
there.
It is my
She
favorite
knows all
movie.
the lines from.
Oh, there's a lot of funny lines
That's
in
what I
it.
want to talk. So what is the display that we have?
Yeah, so we have 4 of our friends visiting from Radiator Springs. So we have Lightning McQueen and Tomater that are, honestly, they're pretty permanent residents here at the museum, but Cruz Ramirez and Jackson Storm.
Boo, Jackson Storm.
They are also here visiting from Pixar and Disney, and so we have a whole little display for them. Supposed to look like, we're in Mater's junkyard. But yeah, we show cars frequently. That I'd like to say that's why I have the movie memorized, but I might have known that before I started working here.
That's great.
But that's one of the cars that like the kids recognize too, and it keeps them engaged. We had a free day last week where every kid was so excited to see them, just to see something that I like to remind them. Yes, it was an animation movie. Disney drew these, but a lot of them they were basing them off of different cars. Like Lightning McQueen is a mixture of so many different automobiles. It's not one specific car that he's modeled after. And same with Tomater. I mean, thankfully, he's a pickup truck, so it's a little easier to recreate him. But
And the Hudson Hornet, that's an actual
Based
car
off-
in a
yeah.
museum.
And for a while, when we had Paul Newman's things, I like to remind the kids that Paul Newman was a really famous race car driver, but they probably know him as Doc Hudson. So just like being able to tie the significance of that movie into what we see here is really fun.
All right, you mentioned Hudson Hornet. It just brought back a memory. I'm a Superman fan. I still have all my comics from the 50s and 60s of Superman, Lois Lane. And every Saturday at night, about midnight, they show the old Superman series, 1952. The car that always stood out when I was a kid was that Lois Lane drove a Hudson Hornet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because, right, it's in the background. So the old movies, if you look back to the old black and white, especially people my age, that kind of
George
thing.
Reeves.
Right, exactly, is that car companies, they push their vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
So they're always pushing this car, this car, this car. And I remember that Hudson Hornet, because at that time, wow, that's an unusual car.
You know what I always liked about the old Superman series is, he'd show up like this, and the bad guys would have the pistols, and they'd shoot at him, and the bullets would bounce off. But then they would throw their gun at him, and he would always
He's
duck
duck.
the gun.
But it goes back to the car thing,
Yeah.
sidetrack.
Yeah.
And that's another thing when you're walking through, you could tell your children, right? I remember this old movie, like Bonanza. They used to have the Chevrolets. And they'd monitor the Chevrolet, show all the new models that came out. And say, I remember that 1961. I remember that 1963.
Yeah.
Well, my first car was. And when I'm doing it, I'm an ambassador or a gallery host, whatever you want to classify it. I just go through the museum and just talk about the different cars and tell fun stories. And a lot of the younger people, I'm saying 30s, 40s years old, relating these stories, they're fascinated because they're not used to it and understand. And then when you talk about the old technology, and one of my favorite, that we're talking about displays and getting off track a little bit, is the electric cars. Is that how Tesla thinks it's so great and wonderful?
Yeah.
You go back to the 1890s and all the technology.
They're there. Yeah.
Right? And then explain this to the children.
Yeah.
And the children, they're fascinated.
Well, that's one of the things when I give tours with the kids. I always say, hey, which one of you, do any of you have electric cars in your family? A lot of kids, Tesla or something like that, Well, how long do you think electric cars have been around for? And most of them, 10 years, 20 years. And then I go, well, come on over here. And I show them the electric cars that we have from, what is it, like 1915, 1917.
Yeah.
I show them those, and then they're just blown away. They don't understand that.
I mean, even the grown-ups are fascinated.
Yeah.
because there's also a lot of history with those cars. And I like to use the comparison since thankfully, Reno's kind of a little more isolated in the town. So I like to explain, like, those cars wouldn't have even made it to Carson City. Like, if you owned one of those cars in Reno, you were staying in Reno, who knows if you would even make it from Summit to Spanish Springs. Like, they don't go far, but they were useful for...
At that time period.
Yeah.
And we think about technology now, getting off track a little bit, but to bring it to the children and to this generation that really are not tech savvy because they don't teach history in the schools anymore, but to relate the early technology, the innovative ideas, the creativity. When you start telling them, okay, gasoline, you go to the station, you pull a handle and you put it in. Well, they didn't have gas pumps back in 1800, in 1900s. Where'd they get gas from? And you explain, you went to the blacksmith shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you go to the drugstore, the pharmaceutical place, and you mix chemicals together.
Yeah.
Or your first headlight, right, was a candle. A candle. And the kids are fascinated. And that's why it's so exciting to bring them here. Right? In conclusion, is there anything you'd like to close with?
For me, it's just the school tours. I think school tours here are really valuable. Right now we have so many school tours coming in because it's summertime, from all around Reno. And it's good for the kids because they get to see the whole museum. We get to talk a little bit about history. And we have cars like the Thomas Flyer that is, the car that won the race back in 1908. And it's got beautiful, wonderful stories all about it. And the kids are always blown away once I tell them, hey, back in 1908, there were no drive-thrus to get food. You couldn't go to McDonald's.
What's McDonald's?
You had to
What's the
sleep on
yeah.
the cold, hard ground, you know what I mean? And it was 4 months of hard traveling. And, once you explain to the kids about how things were back then, they're kind of blown away by it. And so I really enjoy that, actually.
That's great. What would you like to add?
Yeah, I would tack on to that, just getting kids into this building and families is a great opportunity, whether it's through one of our events, our free events, our admission events, or, organizing those field trips. We have so many options. We have self-guided, so if you want and feel comfortable enough like walking around, we have people like Marcel who are there to answer some special questions, or like kids always ask, do we have a Bugatti? He'll show them we have one, but it's not one they're expecting.
Yeah, exactly.
But we also have like guided tours that I think are super fundamental. Some of my core memories from elementary school and middle school and high school are not I couldn't tell you what I learned in a textbook, but I could tell you every single field trip I went on and how it was important. It just created some fun memories. You get to see things in the outside world and see certain things in person, like the cars or the blacksmith shop. You're just learning so much. And I feel like we do a really good job here of showing the evolution, showing what it was then versus how did we get to where we are at now. So I think any chance to give children an experience and show them, videos and learning things in textbooks are cool, but why do that when you can come down here in person?
It's a life experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing I want to bring up is that it's not a well-known fact. And when you book field trips, that with the older kids, the high school kids, you make them aware that we have that maintenance program, which kids nowadays, there's very little shops that are still available in the schools.
Yeah.
Very little children, very few children actually work on a car. How do you change a tire? How do you change the oil? Right? And I don't want to go anywhere with your car.
Yeah, as someone who personally learned from the first time this workshop was shown to 16-year-olds, and I was not 16. I wish I would have had that when I first started driving. I probably could have prevented some
major
big,
expenses.
Yeah,
right?
some big bills.
And that's what I wanted to bring up, is that that's also available, not only for the high school children, but for college children, or even adult groups if they want a program. It's basically, it's visual. It's things that you should check yourself, right? And it's a great opportunity, which is more than just a museum. It's an educational experience across the board. Well, I want to thank you, Jada, very much. I appreciate you coming down and helping us. And Marcel, I appreciate your effort and time. And like I said, they have a new invention. It's called a razor. So maybe someday you might get one. We'll surprise you as a present. Okay? So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again. And this is The Inside Story. I'm Bronk, Jada, and Marcel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.